There we go. And again, I am so happy this evening to be welcoming Peggy Clark Lumpkins. She is the Camden Public Library's featured Artist of the Month, and we were so hoping to actually have a live show because it's so wonderful and so meaningful to be able to see, paintings in person. But because of the situation we're in with COVID-19, the Camden Public Library's gallery is still not open to the public. So Peggy graciously agreed to do a virtual gallery, which you can view on our website. The Camden Public Library's website is librarycamden.org. And Peggy has also so kindly agreed to donate 20% of all sales from her websites. She has two websites, peggyclarklumpkins.com and colorofootpress.com. And all sales during the month of August, she'll donate 20% to the Camden Public Library. So we're super grateful for that. Thank you. Okay, let's find out about Peggy. I have a little bio here I'm going to read right before we get started. Peggy Clark Lumpkins has been painting for 50 years. As a teenager in New York City, she enjoyed 4 magical years at the High School of Art and Design. This was followed by a year at the college at San Francisco Academy of Art and a year back at New York at Pratt Institute. I love this quote from her. At this point, I knew what I wanted to paint, she says. I needed to paint what I loved and not what my teachers desired. So I took a leave of absence and never looked back. Peggy ultimately moved to Brownsville, Maine in 1987 and established her home and studio on the edge of a large garden. Her aim was to grow food and flowers as subjects for paintings and to homeschool her 2 sons in the embrace of art. So with that, let's say hello to Peggy. Hi, Peggy. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
All right. So what we're going to do tonight is she sent me a program to bring up her slideshow, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Here we go. Here's Peggy's talk and share. Peggy, can you see that okay?
I can see it. I got it.
Okay, super. So now I'm going to do that remote control thing. And do you see the thing come up on your screen to take the remote control?
Yes, I see it. Got it.
All right.
I think. All right. So, well, I just thought I'd show you where I live. I live in a garden, and I'm surrounded by nature and flowers this time of year, anyway. And I just thought you'd like to see where I live. And the upper left-hand side upstairs, those two, there's 3 windows, and then there's 2 other ones. That's my studio. So I've got all this bright, great light in my studio, and also windows I can watch the clouds go by with.
How did you decide to paint it purple? Was it purple when you got the house?
Well, no, we bought a shell, and it didn't have any power or water or exterior siding or anything, so we put the siding up, and we originally painted it white and put purple trim on it, but purple's my favorite color, so everybody in town, everybody everywhere called it the Purple House, and it was a white house with purple trim. So when it needed a new paint job, it was like, well, it's already known as the Purple House, might as well be purple all the way, because it's a happy place. So
absolutely, it's beautiful.
I'm not getting to the next slide. So.
Okay, so go ahead and I can go ahead and forward it, and then we can,
yeah.
let's try to give you that remote control one more time. Whoops, oh, there we go. Now you can, there was just a delay.
Yeah, okay. So, well, I'm just going to show you some of the flowers that I grow in the flower garden. I've got some, I have actually a sink full of water lilies, an old sink. And then I have another little tub full of water lilies, and the frogs have moved in, and these are a big part of my life. I know it sounds kind of silly, but I spend a lot of time out there, and the flowers that I grow are really inspiring to me, and the little critters I see around. And right up the road is Scudic Lake, and on hot days I go jump in the lake and just float around looking at clouds. And they soak into me and become part of my paintings in the future. This is another part of my garden. Some more. The foxgloves here just remind me, I was telling Julie what I saw just before I came and turned on the computer, I went out into the garden and was just, you know, checking on some things out there. And I noticed a little movement in the bushes, and there was a fox there. It was just hanging out, looking around. A bird was like singing, and the fox just had his nose up in the air, and we just spent a few minutes together.
Was it a gray fox or a red fox?
It was a red fox.
Oh, so beautiful.
And he was absolutely beautiful, you know, like totally fluffy and in great health, and just absolutely, and he was very calm. I've seen fox before, and they're just, you know, you kind of like have to imagine what you saw because they move so fast. But he was very beautiful. So here's some peonies. It's really hard to take a picture of the whole garden, so here are some pictures of the whole garden.
Now, do you add to it every year? Are you constantly expanding it, or do you have your collection of flowers that you like to plant regularly?
Yeah, well, so I've been working on this garden since 1987, and probably about 10 years ago, it got as big as it can really get. It's about the size of an acre.
Wow.
And you know, it's all consuming. So if it got any bigger, I'd probably not be able to keep up with it. So yeah, no, but I do plant new flowers every year, things I've never planted before. So there's always something interesting, and things change, you know, like the magnolia tree is different every year. And this is part of the vegetable garden. And in the back there, just behind the pine tree is where all the blackberries are. And it takes about 3 hours to pick that whole patch. And that's where the fox was when I was up here earlier. Yeah, so this garden feeds us all year. We're vegans, so that's pretty nice. We have a year's supply of onions, garlic, and broccoli, and other things. And here's the house back there. And we go for bike rides and take our poodle with us. So these are my two life companions here, Winston and Poppy. And we used to have the boys following behind us, but now they're on their own and they're biking all over the place. And when I'm sitting in the garden, I have a really nice chair that I go out and take a break at every once in a while. And it's right by this water lily sink. And these little birds fly over and take baths while I'm sitting there. And it's, you know, it's a nice thing for me. My company, you know, no other company during COVID, but I've got my birds and frogs. There's a hibiscus just growing in a pot. I bring this one in and it blooms all winter. And my plum trees in the spring. Yeah, they're beautiful. I haven't gotten them. Whoops. I've got to back up a little bit here, I think. I'm trying to go backwards.
Yep, no, it's going backwards now. I think you got a little trigger happy with your finger there. I think it just went forward too far. So we're just getting a quick preview of everything.
Okay. Are we going backwards or are we going forward?
I think there we are. Yep, you're right where you were.
All right. Okay. All right. So there. So okay. Okay, so these are hibiscus flowers. These flowers are actually as big as my face. They're fun to grow. And this is just a view from my studio window. I'll be sitting there painting because I paint right near the window. I've got great ventilation that way and great light. And, you know, when something wonderful happens, I just have to. So I always have my camera next to me when I'm anywhere so I can get a picture of it. Just wonderful moments out the window. This is another one, just looking out the window. Like, I mean, you know, these amazing things are happening around us all the time. You just have to pay attention.
You know, Peggy, I've looked at your Instagram page and you have some incredible photos. You know, I knew you first as a painter, and then going and looking at your photography, it's equally as stunning. So folks, if you get it,
thank you. I feel like I'm a terrible photographer.
Oh no, it's beautiful.
Well, my trick with the Instagram, because I have cameras and I can't get them into my iPad easily. I just take all those pictures with the iPad itself. And so anyway, this painting, I have this painting in here because I did this painting when I was 16, and I was in the High School of Art and Design at the time, and I would get home from school, and I had a bicycle with panniers, and in one pannier I'd put a canvas, and in the other one I'd put my paint box, and I'd ride on out to the wildlife preserve. I grew up in New York City in Queens, so this was out in Jamaica Bay. And this was one of the paintings I did one of those afternoons after school. It's, you know, so it's kind of beat up because it was in my bicycle basket on the way home with all that traffic. But, you know, I think you can still tell that it's mine. That jumped ahead by itself. I didn't touch anything.
That might have just been me. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. This painting I did when I was like 20 years old, and I was living in the Sierras at the time, and my brother had given me an Easter lily from a florist, I suppose, and I painted it. And so you can see that these themes of mine, the ocean and flowers, have been with me my whole life. And one of the things I love about this painting is that this was before I grew lilies in my garden. When you get an Easter lily from a florist, they pull the anthers off, and that's the most interesting part of the flower. Well, and they're not there, just the stigmas that hold the anthers are there. And these days, when I paint lilies, I have the whole thing in there. I was going to move on to the next one.
Is it not working again? It's not forwarding?
Yeah, it's not,
it's probably just having that delay. There you go. Click it. There we are. Perfect. I see your studio now.
So this is my studio, and the way that I work on sometimes 20 paintings at once. This is summertime, and there's a lot of other things going on, so I only have like maybe 6 pieces in motion. But I work in transparent oil paint, so I work in layers. I'll put down one color, and then I have to wait till it dries before the next color goes on there. And the oil glaze takes a week or sometimes 2 weeks to dry before I can put the next layer on there. So when I have time to paint, I'll move that wet painting off the easel and go and get another one. Here I'm working on, I have some other views of the pieces that I'm working on. I just moved from one to the other. So because I work so slowly, it can take me a year to actually finish a painting. The goldfinch here with the magnolia I've been working on for quite a while. This is behind me, so I'm sitting at my easel, and this is behind me. Usually I've got my paints out there. I have a little easel there, so you can see another piece I'm working on. This is a piece that's almost finished. I thought I'd show it to you because all I need to do here to make it finished is just to go in and put another layer of color on the leaves, and then it's done. That's about it. I'll probably finish that tomorrow. And this part of the goldfinch painting is finished. It's a magnolia that grows outside the front door, and I often see goldfinches in there, and this is a really tiny plant. So this painting is actually a really small painting for me. It's about 10 by 10. It's a sundew. And so I've been working on the layers. First I painted the moss in there, and then when that was dry, I went and I painted the reflection, because it's growing in a bog and it has a lot of water in it. So there was water floating around, and clouds were reflecting out of the water. So I painted those in there, and then I went back and painted this. So I have to put the little, there's a gazillion little sticky tentacles sticking up off these little paddles, and some other colors in there. So we're a few layers away from completion here, but it's been fun to work on it. So when I work on that painting I just showed you, I'm using this really tiny little 20-0 brush to get the details in there. And these are my favorite brushes. These are how I apply the glaze. I use sable brushes, and they're just very smooth. The whole thing that I like about working with the glaze is that you don't see brush strokes. I have total control of where everything goes and how it shows up. And so even like I have one painting that took me, I actually put 100 layers of glaze on this one painting. It took 18 months to do. And it was, you know, it was great. I can't remember what I was going to say there.
Peggy, can you talk a little bit about when you're talking about glaze and layers? So how do you achieve that? Are you thinning down the pigment?
Yeah. So when I start, the first layer is just pure paint, like as thin as I can get it on there. If some paint is thicker than others, so if it's too thick, I'll add some turpentine just so I can spread it around. All my layers are really, really thin. That's where I was going with the 100 layers. Even though there's 100 layers of paint on that one painting, it's still an incredibly flat. There's no texture, and it's still very thin because each layer is just really, really thin. So after that first layer, then I start adding a medium to the paint, and it's the classic painting medium that painters have been using for over 400 years. It stands the test of time. When you put that much time into a piece, you really have to know that it's going to hold up and be around for forever, hopefully. So I use the classic medium that's Damar varnish with pure turpentine and linseed oil. Mm. And I just mix that with the paint. I'm using transparent paint to start with too. So some of your oil paint is opaque and some of it's transparent, and it depends on the pigment that's in there, and it will tell you on the tube when you look at the tube whether it's transparent or opaque. I go for the transparent because I like to put a pure color on there, let it dry, and then put the next color on there, and then your eye is mixing the color instead of me mixing it on the palette. Your eye is mixing the color so that it's more alive that way. There's a certain dynamic to it that gets lost when you mix them together physically on the palette. So by mixing them, you know, by having them just visually mixed, it just makes them more alive. They're much more vibrant.
So you had said that picture had 100 coats or 100 layers. What would you say is more your average of what you would do?
Well, I'm trying to spend less time so that they're more affordable. The seascape ones have about 5 or 6. Most of the flowers have about 20 layers on them these days. And I just keep going until it's done. So if, you know, there are times when I think, oh, I'll probably finish that next week when I put that layer on. And then I get it on there and it's like, oh, well, I think I really want to go back in there. So then I'll wait. But sometimes I think I've got 10 more layers ahead of me and I'll put one on there and it's just done. So, you know, it's hard to things happen because you're putting a color on top of a color on top of a color on top of a color, and you think you might have to put another one in there, but sometimes you don't. So it's like magic.
This looks like your goodie box.
This is just, so these are all actually drawers in my Tabaret, and I know where every tube is, so I can just get it when I need it. The other thing about the way the paint is, I only ever have one color on my palette at a time because I'm putting that particular color everywhere it goes. And sometimes there's another color I can get in there while that one's wet without bothering it. So some days I can actually put 3 or 4 layers in different places if they don't overlap. So, you know, I'm always trying to think ahead, like, well, can I get that in there without, you know, because the whole idea is to not get a wet layer on top of a wet layer.
Sure. Yeah.
Because then they get all messed up. But, that's just the way that I do it. I don't actually know anybody else who paints like that. But.
Well, you know, I really, in promoting the program, I really emphasize that this is going to be about Peggy's slow art. And so
Definitely
I think
slow. Yep. We do slow food here and slow art. And I mean, I really love to work this way. I really love the piece I'm working on. So this lets me spend time with it. I only paint things that I really love. So I want to spend that time. I have absolutely no reason to rush through it. So every time I step out the door, every time, it doesn't matter where I am. Well, if I'm in a city, it doesn't really happen, but I'm very rarely in a city, but I go on a walk and 10 paintings just fall into my head. So when I see something that just really grabs me, I do a quick little sketch. I write down where I can find some images from it. And then I sit down and I plan out like what size should it be. It tells me what shape it has to be the second it falls into my head. And then I have to figure out what size it can be that falls within, I want it to be about that size. So these are the way I figured the numbers out and do the little sketches. This painting is hanging behind me on the wall there. This is a painting I just finished recently. I think it's in my virtual show, actually, that this is the working out of Peony Cove.
Yes.
But I don't do any more detailed drawings than this. This is all I need. This is like the shape of things, and then the details, the part that I love, I just work on later. These are just more paintings that fell into my head. So I have books and books of this. And this is a painting that I just had to spend a lot of time working out. So this is a really big painting of the voodoo lilies. And I guess, it was a really fun painting. It's like 80 inches tall. But that required more working out than usual. So this one is I'm showing you this just as I don't usually color things in or anything, but this was for a commission. A woman showed me a bedspread that she had for a room, and she really wanted a painting for it. And so going from something that, knowing her, talking with her, seeing what she might like, I did these sketches and sent them to her, and she chose the bottom one, Zinnia. And so then I got it on canvas. We had worked out the size and the price and pretty much the time frame. And so as we went through the commission, I was sending her clips of the layers as I went through, just to say, hey, I'm still here. It's coming along. It's slow, but it's happening. And so I did all of these layers pretty much at once. It took a few days to get all of those shading in there, but that was, just the first thing there. And then I got after I had that darkness there, I just paint over that with the next layer and put everything everywhere. And then this is, closer to finish. And then I had to lighten it up again because it was getting too dark. So I just, I put transparent iridescent white paint on things to lighten them back up. So you still see all the color through it. And then this is almost there. And there it is finished.
Wow. No, that was so helpful to get to see that progression you just did, to understand.
Yeah, and so that was about, I think that one I did in about 4 months.
Wow.
From start to finish, from the sketch to the painting.
Because you said it can take a couple weeks almost to have layers dry. Is that correct?
Yeah, so some colors take longer than others. Reds dry faster. Purple, some of the purple that I have takes 3 weeks to dry no matter what. It doesn't matter on weather or what. It just takes that long. My favorite paint is blocks. It's just a really high quality pigment, so you can thin it down a lot, but you can still get like the biggest punch, and schminky also. So after I finish a painting, Winston takes them outside to photograph them in natural light. And this to me was the highest compliment, because he was taking this photograph,
Oh, look at
and
that.
the hummingbird just had to come by and check it out. So
yeah, so everyone look up in the kind of the right upper corner. There it is. Oh my goodness. That is a good compliment.
that was just very sweet. And so then Winston makes all my frames, and we have a wood shop out the back, behind the greenhouse. And these are all frames. These particular frames are for my G-clay prints and piles of glass. And oh, this one here, there's one with the black on the inside. Those are the frames that it makes for the oil paintings. And the paintings slip down inside, so it's kind of like a, so you see the whole canvas. And this is called a floating frame. Yeah. And so these are paintings. The next few paintings are paintings of where I live. This is a place that I walk by every day. These are the railroad tracks, and there's a ditch full of water, and it's just, this is called Cloud Road, because it's one of my favorite things. And that Saddleback Mountain background there, the one here in Brownsville, not the one in Springfield. This is another scene right up the road at General Mary Lake, looking at Mount Katahdin. This one was done plein air, so I just sat there and painted this right there. And so this one doesn't have layers. This one is just you just use charcoal, so you can still see the charcoal line in the rocks under the water. And that's a little painting. It's about maybe 8 by 10. Something.
But yeah, seeing the comparison, I can definitely tell now, you know, my eye is becoming trained to the pictures that have the extraordinary layers versus, like you said, the plein air ones that are done in one sitting.
Yeah. So this one is the place where we swim up at Scoodic Lake. We're always swimming towards Katahdin there. This was just a beautiful day, and I just love this little trail of, you know, it's like a little train of clouds over the top of the mountain. Katahdin seems to have its own little weather patterns up there. That's kind of what that looked like to me. And then here's Katahdin from Tote Pond, which is right in Baxter Park as you enter the park. This is the view that you see there. So this is the place that I live. And this is right across the street from me. This is the 100-mile wilderness. That's the view that we look out when we look over the field. It's just such a great place. So I often, you know, like am looking out my window, because I'm still painting usually when it's sunset time. My painting time is from like 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 in the evening. And so depending on the time of year, sunset will start happening while I'm at the easel, and it's like, all right, it's sunset time, let's go. So we just run over to the field and watch the sunset. And this is another local scene. This is on just past the railroad tracks. This mushroom just kind of popped up, just needed to be painted. And this is another scene. This is just riding my bike. You know, one of my favorite things is, I mean, I'm not a fast bike rider. You probably wouldn't like to ride a bike with me. I have to stop and take pictures or take notes or something. Or just stop and feel it, because it's just so gorgeous. And I love the way the milkweed fluff was collecting in the back of the field there. This is like from almost the same place as the previous one, the way the birch trees stuck out, and all these things happen in the sky at the same time. Just a lot of fun to always keep my eye up there. This is another one. This is the view out my studio window in the winter. The mourning doves are always there. This is a really big painting. I think I think it's like 80 inches tall and maybe 14 inches wide, something like that.
Peggy, this was my favorite one that you put into our virtual show. I was so impressed. The dimensions of your paintings are so interesting because, like you said, they're, you know, you have long, tall, skinny ones, and you know, ones that go this way. But I was able to zoom in really close on the doves, and the amount of detail is gorgeous, and you capture the personality of the little puffed up doves so perfectly. I love this one. So sorry, I had to say that.
Thank you. That's one of my favorites too. And this one is the Pansy. So these flowers are mostly all right from my garden, grown right here, except for this one. This one I couldn't grow. I tried for many years to grow this, and I just couldn't grow it. But then I saw it at Booyah Gardens on Mount Desert, and spent the afternoon soaking it up so I could paint it. And this is a Peony. Whoops. Yeah, so this is a close-up of a Peony. This is maybe 20 by 20. I just had so much fun with all the details in there. It was really that was fun. That one has a lot of layers. This is the one that has 100 layers. At one point, I realized that in order to get that blue to really, you know, pop like that, at one point the whole painting was vermilion, and that pale blue on top of that vermilion eventually, you know, picked up that effervescence that it has. It's the one I've spent the most time with. This is another tall painting. This one I think is 85 inches tall. Just really enjoyed working with the pictures. I love plants. Plant life is just exciting to me. It's very inspiring to me. And so that painting, a client of mine wanted me to make another painting of a pitcher plant for her that was smaller because that one was too big. And I can't paint the same painting twice. So I went for our local pitcher here. This is what many adjustments to the sketch, and this is what we wound up with. This was a really fun piece. This is a pitcher plant from the Orno Bog. But you can see these pitcher plants just everywhere. This is another wildflower, just one that I like to visit every spring, just in the woods right here.
It almost looks iridescent. The whites in there it's just that you capture the iridescence of it.
That one actually wasn't iridescent. It was just white.
Oh, it looks.
This is its relative, the purple trillium, also growing in the woods. And this is a garden flower from right out the door here. It's the banded poppy. And what I liked about this, what I was trying to say with this painting was, I mix all my poppy seeds up together and I throw them all together in this place. And there's different kinds of poppies. And so this one, so like in the bottom, on my left anyway, there's a seed pod that is different than the center of the poppy that has its petals, because it's a different type of poppy. I don't know if anybody picks up on that or not, but that was the fun part for that for me. And this is a rhododendron, just a close-up of a couple of, you know how they grow in clusters. Mm-hmm. This is a couple of different flowers there. They get really kind of, you can get lost in there. This is a really big poppy painting. It's like 5 feet wide by 3 feet high.
Wow.
It took a long time. There are many layers in there just to get it to come alive. But it was fun. I really like to work big. And this is a cup and saucer vine. It's, actually, I have some growing in the garden now with buds on them. And so, yeah, I should be telling you the sizes of these. This painting is almost 40 inches high, and maybe about 20 inches wide. So just to give you an idea. And this is the latest big flower painting of daffodils. Just
So,
really bright.
and this one was, yeah, this was one of the ones I featured a lot in the promotions of your show, because the brightness of it was so, it was just such a happy picture. It, you know,
Yeah. I'm
reminded me.
always happy. I'm a happy person. I mean, I know we've got all these terrible things happening, and I should be depressed, but I just can't help myself. I understand what's happening out there, but happiness is in my place. And
Well,
this is the African Queen. What's that?
I was gonna say, one of the things that I noticed that you had mentioned is that, you know, you primarily paint landscapes and seascapes or coastscapes, and there are a handful of your pictures that actually do have other critters in them. So where, you know, there's a little gecko, not a, it might be a gecko, a salamander, I think, in one of
Yeah, a little red newt.
a little newt. So
Yeah.
is that something that has only recently started happening, where you're sneaking those guys into your paintings, and do you see that happening more, or was that a phase?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, it's definitely happening more. The mourning doves were really the first critters I put in a painting. They were just hanging out there. They watched me paint all winter long, and they just needed to come in. And so after them, I painted some robins, and I really had fun painting them. And then I just recently finished an eider duck. And when I was painting the fiddleheads, when I'm out there picking fiddleheads, I see the other things that are there, and there's this little red newt going by. So, you know, it's like, yep. And the frogs, of course, there's a frog in my big water lily painting. Yeah, and butterflies. More butterfly paintings are in my mind. And I have to see that box again before. I don't have enough information in my head, but almost, you know, I mean, that was such an intense moment that we shared that I can almost do it.
Oh, I hope you will. I hope you will.
Thank you. So at some point, this is the first flower painting that I did where I decided to put a beach behind it, because here in Maine, you see flowers right along the ocean. And, you know, I've been also putting more clouds behind flowers these days. I used to mostly put solid backgrounds behind them. So things are shifting. Things are melding together. So there's a little series here that have the ocean behind the flower that I saw there. Like, this is wild iris at Tote Pond. The other one was the bluefin, and that was by Scarborough Beach. And here's beach peas at Popham. So I was this day at Popham. I was really sad when I first stepped onto the beach. It was just like, there's not a cloud in the sky, because what makes me happy is to paint clouds. But, you know, so we walked over to Fox Island there, and there were the beach peas and these birds flying. And it's like, all right, I can live now. So that was a lot of fun. And this was at the end of the day, the clouds came by along Popham. So this is actually the same day as the previous painting. And that series of flowers and the sea are all the same size. I think they're 16 by 48. And I just went hiking up on the Cutler Coast in just northern, well, I guess most people would say down east. And it was so beautiful there. There were fireweeds everywhere. So that's probably going to be my next flower on the sea in that size and shape. This painting I put here because I've always done these little paintings of the ocean just for fun, and only ever exhibited my flower paintings until I had the Naturalist Notebook, which was in Seal Harbor for a few years, probably 10 years. I'm not sure exactly how long. I met them, and they said, you know, people would really like to see a painting of Seal Harbor. So I painted this painting for them, and people liked it. So I just kept putting paintings out there. I painted this one for them also. This is Hunter's Beach. So both of these are on Mount Desert Island, which is also where the Naturalist Notebook was. And I had just started making note cards at that time, and they really fostered me to, make more prints, So, I started making plays about that time for them, and it just has taken off since then. So now I have a little note card business and a print business, and basically thanks to them.
Yeah, and so we should mention
is,
we should mention that though, that people who are interested in considering purchasing your work, they can find the original artwork at peggyclarklumpkins.com, correct?
right.
And then Color Afoot Press, so COLORAFOOT Press, PRESS. That has all of your note cards and calendars and prints and things like that. So it's nice because you really do offer quite a variety of artwork at different prices. So
Yeah, well, it was kind of a tactic of survival too, because these paintings take me so long. They're kind of expensive,
sure.
and I can only make so many of them a year. So having the prints also, it really has let me be more independent.
Well, and then the calendar is gorgeous, and it actually lets people have a whole bunch of your artwork in one, in one little package like that. So that's really lovely. And again, I know that must be a difficult summer because most of the shows have been canceled, and it sounds like you meet a lot of people at the shows. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically my whole living comes from the shows, doing shows, and people that I meet there. I pick up my commission work at shows too. If I don't have a painting that fits the spot, but they like what I do, then we'll work something out there. But I love doing the shows because I get to meet people, and I store that up just like I'm storing up every minute I spend in the garden and all the food that I save. And then my isolated winter, I have all of that to get me through. So, I don't have that this year, but I'm so fortunate compared to so many people during this time because I've got my garden here, I've got my home, and I have something to do always. I've never been bored a moment in my whole entire life. So I feel most fortunate. So yeah, this summer's been different for me, and I hope we can do shows like that again. But in the meantime, we've got you.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah. So this is Sand Beach on Acadia. Just going through some beach paintings. This is also looking down on Sand Beach from Great Head, the hike around there on Mount Desert Island. This is up north, just driving up on 1 to Aroostook County. There's just fields and fields of lots of stuff, and this was this was a spur of the moment. We were driving up for I can't remember what, and we saw this sign, "You pick strawberries," and just these fields with the mountains in between and the perfect clouds. It was just such a great moment. This is from Fort Williams, just walking along there, first snow of the year. It was a great day, and I'm walking along, and it just looked like those clouds were like, if you run up this hill really fast, we'll give you a ride. So that's what that painting is about. And this is Ferry Beach down in southern Maine. This is the Ferry Beach, actually the northern Ferry Beach. It's near Scarborough. But just a really great day. It poured on us after I did the sketch for this, but we knew a storm was coming. This is another time at Scarborough Beach where you get to spend the whole day on the beach, and you're just having such a great day, but then it's time to turn around and go home, and you're just kind of like, oh, I hate to leave this beautiful day. And then you turn around and these trees are there, and the sky is doing this thing, and the trees are like, it's really nice out here on land too. So, just those things. This is a recent painting that I just delivered down to a really nice person in Italy. This is a Bass Harbor in also on Mount Desert. Mount Desert is my go-to ocean fix because it's only 2 hours away from Brownsville, where everything else is further away. But
And it's ridiculously pretty there, so that doesn't
yeah,
hurt.
it is. It is. Every single speck of that island is gorgeous.
For the people who are with us at this program, we have about 10 minutes left. So if anyone has a question for Peggy, you can go ahead and type it right into the chat box, and you can find that by clicking on your toolbar. There should be a little icon for chat. So if you have anything you'd like to ask her, she can keep going with her show, and I'll let her know if a question pops in.
Okay, this was a commission piece of Mount Desert. It's actually the same spot as the last painting. This is a little lichen. I've been working on lichen. So this is actually a really tiny painting with a lot of detail with that 20-0 brush. And here's another lichen. This is only like 6 inches by 6 inches. I just love it. Just beautiful. And here's another lichen. Just things that draw my eye. This is my latest lichen painting. So it's lichen that I see on trees as I go by, and just thought, that looks a lot like the clouds. So let's put them together. And here's my little red newt there. Yeah, that's just up the road at a dear friend's place. And this is horsetails. They're a wild plant they're like really ancient. Yeah. And here's a wildflower, our first wildflower here in Maine, the trailing arbutus, and that might be it.
Oh, well, we just had a question come in, so a couple comments too. We have a comment that says, beautiful, wow, amazing, love your work. Another comment is blown away by the beauty and Peggy's obvious joy for life that shows in her paintings. What is the site again for the prints and note cards? So it's colorofootpress.com. I'm going to go ahead and type it into colorofootpress.com. So I've just typed that into the chat box. You can see that there. And it's peggyclarklumpkins.com for the paintings. And there's a link to the Color of Foot Press on Peggy's regular site as well. And then they said thank you for that. So if there's any other questions, this is kind of the last minute time for those questions. And once again, I just want to mention, in case you missed the very beginning of the program, Peggy has very kindly offered to donate 20% of the sales from her site, from either of her sites, to help support the Camden Public Library during the month of August. And that's a tremendous help to us, like a lot of other businesses and organizations. The library also is in a pickle right now because we're not able to do our regular kind of fundraising. So these sort of efforts really help us out too. So you can help support local art and your local library at the same time.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yes. So Peggy, I have a quick question for you. So I know that you have a couple kiddos, or you raised a couple kiddos in this amazing, beautiful place that you've shown us. Have you ever painted people? Have they ever been part of your children or people? Do they ever show up in your paintings?
My first commission was when I was 8 years old. So this is the first painting that I actually sold. And it was a portrait. This guy wanted me to do a portrait of him to give his wife for their anniversary. Talk about egotistical, but so I did that. But and it came out fine. And he paid me. I made $35 when I was 8 years old, and I really absolutely hated it. And I took a class. I took a class in portrait painting at the San Francisco Academy of Art, and I did fine. I got good grades and everything. But I just to me, the most beautiful thing is a flower. I mean, I love people, and I really miss seeing everybody's face. I really do. But it's different,
Sure.
Yeah, it's just not anything I ever wanted to paint. When my sons were born, I really, really, really wanted to paint them. And I did some woodcuts actually of them, just like. Actually, I really like those. But one of my son was, he had a beautiful long blonde braid, and he was sitting making valentines. So I did it from the back of his head. You know, faces are tough. It's just not my thing.
No,
Faces,
you have to
flowers.
paint. You have to paint what you love, just like you
Yeah, you
said.
gotta paint what you love, and I've painted dogs for people, but and that's okay. I painted my dog for myself, but now if anybody asks me if I would paint their dog, I send them to my friend Christine Prosser because she paints dogs so great, and I don't need to do that because she does it so much better.
And what, so no people and rarely animals, occasionally if it's a special meaningful situation. What about buildings? Like if someone had asked if you could do a portrait of their house or painting of their house, is that something you've ever done?
People have asked, I mean, there are buildings in a lot of the paintings that I do and I leave them out. I did do a little painting of the Portland Head Light because I was there once and, you know, it had all these clouds around it. It's like, I know exactly how you feel, you know, because my head is in the clouds too. And there was like a window missing, you know, so there was, you know, but that's the only building that I really paint.
Really? Wow.
I yeah, when people ask, I just say no. I mean, I just love nature so much that when I go somewhere, I'm not noticing the houses or
Mhm.
things like that. That's not what I'm looking at. And you know, the world is enormous, so I'm taking this enormous world and trying to get it on a canvas, which is relatively small. Even if it's a big canvas, it's small compared to the world. So I got to leave something out. I've got to edit it or to paint it. And the first thing to go is the man-made stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I hope that this presentation has portrayed to the public, to anyone who watches it, your enormous talent. And I thank you so much for being here this evening and for doing this talk. I know that this was a lot of new stuff for you to try out with Zoom and slideshows. So again, I thank you so much for the effort and the time that you put into this, and for agreeing to be our August Artist of the Month for the Camden Public Library. So,
well, it's such an honor. It's an honor, and I learned so much from you. Thank you. I mean, we have to learn how to live in these times.
We do, yeah.
This is a part of it, a way to keep going.
Well, Peggy, I look forward to seeing you in safer times at an art show, either in Camden or Belfast or someplace else. And I will be so excited to see you in person and to get really close and observe these beautiful paintings that, you know, that I did originally fall in love with when I saw you in Belfast years ago, or a couple years ago. So. All right, with that, I thank you once again for joining us, everyone who came this evening. I will be posting this on the library's YouTube page, and you can find that at Camden Public Library Programs and share it with your friends. And Peggy, thank you again. Have a great rest of your evening.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.